In 2012, Tudor released the Tudor Pelagos, and they updated it in 2015. We've got one in store, and to me, this is what the Rolex Submariner was always supposed to be. So, let's take a little time and talk a little watches. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Watch Dealers, and welcome to the new home of the Watch Dealers. We missed our video last week because we were setting up our very own boutique and offices here on the Gold Coast in Australia. That's almost all done, and I'm excited to share the set with you, the new set and the new offices with you this week. This week, we're going to be talking the Tudor Pelagos. We've got the grey dial in with me right now, and I've got to say, it's quite a special little piece. But before we get into that, do the wristwatch check. Today, I'm wearing my Fears Brunswick Salmon. Those of you who have been watching the channel for a little while have seen this watch before. Nicholas over at Fears was amazing to deal with. He made this piece for me outside the production run, knowing how special this was going to be to me. This watch actually commemorated starting the Watch Dealers. And so big thank you to Nicholas over at Fears and all the team over at Fears for sorting that out for me. It's just a magical piece, and I really, really love it. Okay, guys, so the Tudor Pelagos. This is a watch that, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a huge fan of when I first saw them. But after actually getting one in, trying it on, wearing it for a little while, this watch really started to grow on me. And I'll tell you why. For me, the Tudor Pelagos is what the Rolex Submariner was originally designed to be. This is the perfect tool dive watch. This is the watch that you can wear and do anything in. It is 500 meters water resistance, it's made of good titanium, and you can wear this watch anywhere. And I think that's really important in today's society. The modern watch collector, on the most part, is not looking for a chronograph, a dress watch, a dive watch, and fitting all these boxes. We find that guys want, and ladies want, a watch they can wear more than for one occasion. This is it, guys. This is the more than one occasion watch. So at 42 millimeters in titanium, the Pelagos is not a small watch, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Its 42 millimeter diameter means that there is plenty of room on the dial, and as you can see, it's ultra legible. Big block indices, big block hands, huge amounts of lume. The bezel track, the timing on the bezel is just thick and clean. So you'll have no issue reading this watch. It's one of the most legible dive watches I've ever come across. The model that I've got here today is the most recent COSC certified model. That simply just means that it's COSC certified and it's warranted to keep an accurate time within the COSC standards. With that, you see 5 lines of text, and this is another bugbear of some people I found with the Pelagos. It's those 5 lines of text. You see every now and again a meme will pop up of the next Pelagos or the next Tudor watch, and it's basically just writing all over the dial. Look, in all honesty, I don't think that having the text below the pinion and above 6 o'clock really interferes with this watch at all. It's small enough that it sort of just blends into the dial. It doesn't affect the legibility at all, especially given how thick the indices are. Now, taking a look at the case, we can see a gorgeous finishing in this titanium. There's a beautiful beveled edge of high polish that runs the side of the case and down the lugs. And then we have a nice, crisp, sharp cutaway into the bottom of the case and turning into the case back. It's very well executed, it's very well machined, and it feels sturdy and it feels stable, and I think that's a great thing when you're talking about a dive watch. In this watch, the crown is obviously screwed down and it's also made entirely of titanium, and we see the Tudor Shield logo, which is, of course, the more modern interpretation of the Tudor design. The 3-link bracelet wraps around into what is possibly the highlight of this watch, and that's saying something because the dial's pretty cool. You wait till we see the lume shot a little bit later on, but the real star of the Tudor Pelagos is this clasp. This clasp is engineering perfection. Now, removing the fold over and opening up the clasp, we see that it is milled out of one piece of titanium. It is a solid milled clasp, and that's great, but that's just the beginning of the show for this piece. On the front of the clasp, you can see here these funny little markings of lots of circles and dots. What that is the inbuilt slide micro-adjust system and a spring-loaded system for the wearer's wrist. The wider that the bracelet needs to go, these springs actually expand out and ensure a snug fit that's not too tight or too loose. And to me, this may be the best fitting clasp under $6,000-$7,000 that you can get on a watch. It may even be the best clasp under $10,000. And that's saying something, because there's a lot of great watches out there, including Rolex Submariners, that can be had for $10,000. The Tudor Pelagos clasp, it's just gotten beat. So we touched on it earlier. The caliber inside the Tudor Pelagos, or at least the modern Tudor Pelagos since 2015, is the MT5612. Now that's an in-house COSC-certified Tudor manufacture movement. That's providing this watch with 70 hours of power reserve. That's really important when we think about usability and wearability, because too often, if you've got 2, 3, 4 watches and you don't want to use a winder, you'll set a watch down 3 days, you've got to wind it up, you've got to set the date again. Now, the Pelagos can be set down half a week, essentially, and still be running for you. You can put it down on Friday afternoon and pick it up Sunday morning. It's still running. 70-hour power reserve in this kind of caliber watch should be an industry standard, but it's not. Even Rolex only just introduced 72-hour power reserves into their movements as a standard. That's Rolex, guys, the king. Tudor has been nailing this since 2015. So let's talk about wearability, because at the end of the day, this watch is not meant to just be sitting in a drawer looking pretty. And it does look quite pretty. On my 6.5 to 6 3/4 inch wrist, this 42mm wears really, really well. And I think that's helped in large part due to the center mid-link. It's a female connection to the end links, and that allows that bracelet to fall and taper nicely down the wrist of a smaller wearer. Now, of course, if you have bigger wrists, then that will just protrude out more and fit your wrist more comfortably also. So I think it's a good choice on Tudor's part to go with an end link that has a female connection. Too often a complaint of mine in my personal collections has been protruding mid links on the end link. The previous generation Speedmaster Pro, for example, had huge mid links. I had one for a few years, and that was ultimately the reason I got rid of it, was that the bracelet wasn't wearable for me. But Tudor have gone for the route of the inverted female link, and it adds an extra dimension of comfort and wearability for smaller wearers. I've seen Pelagos worn by extremely small female friends of mine. One of my best friend's wives actually stole his Pelagos from him because she loved it so much, and she is absolutely tiny. Man, she rocks that thing and looks great. The Pelagos is very, very comfortable on the wrist, and the titanium also helps that. It's not too heavy. You don't feel like this 14mm thick watch is wearing you down or weighing you down because of the titanium. Now, if this watch was in steel, man, you're probably going to be thinking this wears more like a deep sea. But the titanium really, really helps to take away the edge of that extra weight. So that Tudor are really paying attention to the little things lately. The little things like ceramic pins inside the bracelet to make sure that the secure fit never wears down. Things like the extra lume, the legibility of the dial, just expanding things out. Things like the clasp on the Pelagos. Tudor are starting to really show consumers and collectors that they care about us. They care about what we want, and they care about what we think. The Pelagos is the perfect example of Tudor doing just that. This is a watch that shows Tudor cares. And we should all care too. Guys, thank you so much for watching another video of TWD. As always, please visit www.thewatchdealers.com.au. We've got all new stock in this week, including the Pelagos I've been talking about today. Like, follow, and subscribe to the channel. You can find me personally over at Instagram at GCWatchGuy. You can find the Watch Dealers at TheWatchDealersAU. Until next time, take care.